Yes.
Okay, so we're right on time. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Simona Muntele, and I am a solution architect at Hubway Connect. I am based in Romania, and I'm here today with João and Rita. Hi, João. Hi, Rita. To discuss how to navigate the transition from O11 to ODC using Hubway Connect. So we have João here, João Melo. He is our head of product, based in Sydney, Australia. He's a veteran in the OutSystems community, a respected MVP, and he has been closely involved with OutSystem in the ODC transition process. So we wanted to have João here to provide some context, but also to demonstrate a few scenarios of coexistence, interoperability, and some examples of how ODC and O11 can be integrated easily. We also have Rita here, Rita Fernandez. She is our lead developer, based in Portugal, in Madeira right now. She has been working with the product since the very beginning. So Hubway Connect has been her master's thesis for university. So it is the outcome of this academic work. And Rita will show you a demo of the solution we are presenting today for navigating the transition. Of course, we are open for questions. We will have also a couple of polls. So it's very easy to send us questions. You can just go to the geometric symbols, I think, at the right of your screen, and just send us the question. Then, you know, respectful of time, we will try to answer all the questions that you have. So yeah, and also there's gonna be maybe a couple of polls, because we also want to understand from you, our audience, where do you sit in regards to some aspects. So if we dive right in, the question that we have, and there's a lot of discussion about it, is what does ODC bring to the table? So ODC represents a new product. It is cloud native, and it comes with a really important advantage: scalability. So we know that in ODC, you can develop application in a robust way and in a scalable way. There's also a better customer experience, but there's also a lot of new modern features, such as AI capabilities. So there are many advantages on adopting ODC. However, I think it's important to note that not all code can be transitioned very easily to this new platform. Not all applications can be migrated immediately. So what this means is that, yes, on one side, we have the opportunity to revamp our applications, but this comes with a time challenge and also a cost challenge, because all the functionalities, or at least some of the functionalities, will have to be rethinked. So I would like to understand now what is our audience experience with ODC. So let me just launch a poll really quickly. I think everyone should be able to see the poll right now. So please vote. It's really interesting to understand where you stand at the moment. So, and what your experience has been so far. So with this point in mind, I would like to invite you, João, share your thoughts on why we should consider migration and why migration is important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Simona, for the introductions. And good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and share a bit of what our experience has been so far in helping some of our customers migrate from O11 or prepare for migration. And I'd like to start with the reason why and why it is so important to start considering this migration. Look, before everything else, we all know that OutSystems has been, they have a promise for the future, and they are committing to keep out O11 around for some time, at least until 2029. And so there's not going to be an immediate blockage or application availability or anything like that. But adopting ODC early means leveraging modernization. ODC is a new product. It's not really replacing O11. It's just a new product, completely revamped with a new architecture and new features. That's what ODC has to offer. The number one big advantage of ODC is it's scalable. The architecture is natively scalable as it's being built cloud native from design. But what's important to mention is that ODC is bringing new functionalities. And we brought a few examples here, apart from productivity and scalability, but it's also leveraging some of the new functionalities, new technology innovation available in the market, namely some AI-based functionalities. I understand that most of us might have heard of the project Morpheus, which is bringing generative AI capabilities to the product. It's bringing some of the AI leveraged capabilities that can be exported to a number of use cases, like natural language processing, documents management, augmented by AI, just to cite a few examples. So ODC is about leveraging innovative technology that might not be incorporated into the O11 products. I'd like to hand it back over to Simona to discuss some of the approaches as per recommended by OutSystems, and that's important to consider.
Yeah, thank you, Joao. So, I mean, when we're discussing about migration, I think in any project, we should be aware that any upgrade or any transformation process is heavily influenced by size. So in this case, we're talking about the size of the portfolio. So in that idea, there's two approaches suggested by OutSystems. The first one is one shot. I think this is self-explanatory. So this applies to portfolios with less than 2 business apps. This also can be understood as less than 300 AOs. So one-shot migration is the way to go in this case. It's short, it's simple, and that means that the entire portfolio will be migrated at once. But of course, we should be mindful that this is not applicable to everyone. So for the second option, we are discussing about coexistence. Coexistence is basically a phase migration. So this is applicable for bigger portfolios. So the general idea is that with ODC, already the new application should be created in ODC, but the existing O11 apps should be first assessed and then prepped for migration. So what this assessment or prepping means, that means that we should prioritize some of the common use cases, and then only after that, progressing to the most complex cases. So these are basically the two approaches. Now, I am curious about what you guys think about this migration. So I have prepped here another poll. So please let us know your thoughts about the migration. Yeah, I think this should be already visible. So in regard to coexistence, Joao, would you like to maybe dive a bit deeper to understand how we can achieve that?
Yep, absolutely, happy to. So look, we've been working closely with the OutSystems engineering team for a while in terms of helping them validate the ODC migration strategy, and also understand paths. That's one thing that we've been involved for a while. Now, over the last over some period over the last year or so, we've been helping our customers assess their readiness to ODC. And as a result of that, and aligned with OutSystems guidelines, we have been suggesting a phased approach for most of the large portfolios, the enterprise level infrastructures, when you need to handle with complexity related not only to the size or number of applications, but also to human factors. So there's change management aspects, training, and modernization of applications, changes of processes impacted by a modernization of application. All these aspects need to be considered in a phased approach. And we put together this infographic just to give us a high-level guideline on the steps that we foresee in any migration. To start with, we would suggest to start with adopting ODC on applications that will be able to leverage existing components or components that are able to be migrated from O11. The community around the world has been investing a lot of time, not only OutSystems members, OutSystems staff, but also MVPs, champions, ambassadors, and developers in the community in general. They've been investing a lot on porting components from the O11 Forge into the ODC Forge. But not only that, the built-in, the out-of-the-box capabilities in ODC, they've been progressing quite fast. ODC has been receiving significant investment from OutSystems in terms of product innovation and roadmap, and new capabilities are incorporated into ODC quite often. So what we suggest is to run a readiness analysis in the current portfolio and understand what applications can leverage ODC as a product, and understand in the new applications in the app backlog, understand what applications can be built from scratch in ODC. And then as a second step, adopt a progressive migration. By progressive migration, I mean, as I mentioned, the ODC roadmap is in constant evolution. So it will be important to keep running this readiness assessment quite frequently to assess what new capabilities have been added to the new product, and then adding progressively new apps into the migration step. And then in the end, scale up. By the time you have your team trained, you have built new components that will support a new applications portfolio, you will be able to scale up and migrate and more complex applications. And by the time ODC will be ready to incorporate complex functionalities. As most of us know as well, OutSystems is working on an automated migration capability that will be made available late in the year or next year, and that will be super helpful in terms of speeding up the process of automating the migration. And our proposed approach is to use data integration to speed up the process of having data available between mission-critical applications, between platforms, so data available from O11 to be consumed by ODC. And our approach is based on speeding up this process. But before we get into more details on this approach, leveraging Hubway Connect, we'd like to discuss how complex it can get. And we'd like to bring some more subjective flavor to the discussion, because sometimes when we talk about restacking or migration of applications, we discuss the technical terms, and we don't consider some more subjective aspects. One of them is readiness, as I discussed already. Not all code can be migrated at the moment yet, so there's going to be more functionalities, and this is a recurrent assessment that needs to be considered in a migration journey. Adaptation, revamping applications, especially applications that are live, in a production environment, it takes time because there's change management involved. People involved. People need to be created. New processes need to be. New operations need to be adopted in order to support new processes. So it requires time. Rethinking functionalities might not be as straightforward as we'd like. And the new design, ODC is coming with a new design, completely revamped not only architecture but user experience and developer experience. So teams will need training. There is some learning curve in adopting ODC, and while the applications are being ported or migrated, the team needs to get acquainted with the new product. So in some cases, when applications are not readily supported by ODC, you better wait until the product is ready for full migration. And some applications might be able to be put in a migration backlog. Just going forward with a little bit of a reflection on the why coexistence is so beneficial. Look, before everything else, it's about leveraging modernization early. As I mentioned before, ODC is bringing a lot of new functionalities. Just to start with one, all the AI augmented powerful in technology innovation are available in ODC and not necessarily will be supported by O11. It's about reducing risks rather than having a big bang kind of approach where an entire portfolio is migrated at once. You would reduce the risk with bringing lower complexity applications, probably fresher or recently deployed applications, and leaving legacy for later, where you're going to need to handle more complex scenarios at a later stage, and spread the migration costs. So rather than a one-off upfront investment, you would be phasing out your cost of migration according to strategic needs. And last but not least, it's about reducing the interruptions to the operation. If you are migrating applications in a phased approach, you can have you can put a strategy together where departments are affected at a phased approach. You avoid interruptions that will impact the business across different functionalities. So in a nutshell, we're talking about speeding up adoption, leveraging modernization earlier, reducing risks, and spreading out the costs. And it's all tied up to the idea of planning more strategically. Before we jump into demoing the solution, I just would like to bring a visual representation of how we see our solution, Hubway Connect, placed in a migration journey, and talk through a few points. For the ones that are not acquainted with Hubway Connect, Hubway Connect is a no-code solution. In the demonstration, it's going to be clear what we mean by that. That allows IT managers, product owners, non-developers in general, to create and manage APIs. It is supported in O11, and the key purpose is to have data available at light speed. It's based on the OData protocol. For the ones that are not acquainted, OData stands for Open Data. It's an open protocol. It was created by Microsoft over 12 years ago, and it's now supported by the Oasis Foundation, which makes it a publicly available standard. It can be adopted largely, and there are a lot of big technology players in the market that adopt OData widely. A big example of that is Microsoft themselves. A lot of their business solutions adopt OData as the key integration strategy and data interoperability strategy. As an example, I can mention Microsoft Dataverse. Sorry, not Multiverse, but Dataverse, which is a connection of all the business solutions that abstracts the exposure of data. It makes all this data available through a unique protocol. And this protocol is OData. Other players in the market also support OData, considering Oracle, Salesforce, SAP. And even in the Microsoft environment, a lot of the data engineering tools, including Power BI, Power BI Data Mart, Azure Data Factory, Databricks, they all support OData. Not to say still in the data staging analytics environments, a lot of other players also support it, like Google, AWS. Some of the key features present in the OData protocol that make it so fast to be able to consume data is basically all the data manipulation functionality that one can leverage in an SQL implementation are available in OData with its own semantics. So what I'm trying to say is that you can, functionalities like filtering, sorting, attribute selection, joins, they are all supported out of the box by OData. And Hubway leverages all these capabilities out of the box. In the end of the demonstration, we're going to delve a bit deeper into these technical aspects in a more advanced demonstration as well. So in a nutshell, we're talking about effortless interoperability, allowing O11 applications to have their data exposed quickly without the need to massive investment in development cycles. We believe that by leveraging Hubway Connect, businesses can accelerate the adoption of ODC without the major impact of ongoing app portfolios. So that development teams can focus on value to business rather than implementing low-value functionalities. So that's the mission. That's the value proposition of the product. Now, let's delve into demonstrating the functionality. So, Simona, how about if you take it on and demonstrate the basic scenarios in the product?
Yes, of course. Let me just share my screen. And I think everyone can see my screen now. So what you are seeing is the Hubway Connect interface, so the builder. And all the projects that are here are basically APIs. So the first thing we do is we're going to create a new project. And we're going to give this project a name, let's say Webinar 1. And when I create the project, what will happen is that this will generate the service name, and that's going to be used in the API endpoint. So from the very first moment, if I paste this into the browser, we can see that we already have access to the metadata of the API. Now, what I see here is a couple of details in regards to the project I just created. But the most interesting part is here on the Entities tab. So here, what we can do is we can navigate through the OutSystems metadata. So here, I have access to all the tables that are sitting in the OutSystems environment. So entities are automatically available from the OutSystems meta model. So for this demonstration, I'm gonna look for this specific entity because this relates to what Rita will show you a bit later. So I selected this entity and I will add it here. And now if I add the name, so let's just first reload the page and see that we already have a data inside our API. And now if I just add here the name of the entity, we will have access to all the data that sits inside the OutSystem table, so inside the entity. all the attributes in that specific entity. So this is just, a teaser, a bit of an overview about what Hubway Connect can do in a basic form, but we will dive deeper, and this will start now with Rita. So Rita, if you please take this on.
Will do. Thanks, Simona. First of all, hey everyone. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. I will share my screen shortly. I've prepared a couple of videos so to avoid the blue screen of death like Bill Gates in 1998. We don't want to tease the demo gods for today. So what you're seeing in the screen is our Forge component we have available in ODC, and its main purpose is to integrate a Hubway API in an ODC app. So it's basically a product catalog. It just displays some sample data of products. You have the product name, the description, the price, the ratings, and everything. But all this data is coming from a Hubway API, actually. So the link that Simona copied, it's coming from one of those APIs, which I'll show later on. There's basic information about the products that I've mentioned, and you also have the ability to sort, filter, and everything. But you might be asking, like, did I have to implement every single one of these functions? The short answer is yes, but without barely any work at all, because this is where our data comes into play. So each one of these OData supported functions is what enables the querying, the filtering, and everything inside our app. And you can, so like the basic, the hard work with filtering is already done. But if you do want to learn more about it, the behind the steps, we also provide a little step-by-step behind the scenes. But instead of just showing you these quick steps, I'll actually want to share what we have in our code, because it's, again, available and free for you all. So I'll open the ODC Studio, and the app has one screen with two data actions. One to get the existing product categories for filtering purposes, and this is the main one to get products that brings all the product details into the app. It connects through this REST API that is directly connected to a Hubway project endpoint. The project name, the version, the query options of OData, and the entity name are all input parameters. We make use of the OData library. So all these mount predicates that you see here are all coming from this OData library that is also available in the ODC, free to use. So they basically do the hard work of getting everything ready for the query options. So for filtering the ratings, the categories, everything, we use the OData filter. For the sorting, we use the order by. For pagination, we use top and skip, which are other query options, and that's everything. So with this simple data action, everything is fetched from O11 and displayed, sorted, filtered, and paginated very easily in ODC. One final remark is that both the project name and the version are settings in ODC, which are like the equivalent of site properties. And if you want to use it in your environment, you also have to change this consumed REST API, the URL, you should point it to your the host name where everything of Hubway is installed, and you're free to use. Just to show you quickly where the data is coming from. So what Simona showed you before, this is our builder. We have a project named ODC, and this is the link that gets directly copied. And we just exposed a couple of entities. And the product details is where everything's coming from. So it's a custom entity. It allows us to join several entities with relationships between each other in a flat table. And we were able just to select the required attributes for our little app. And yeah, so there you go. I hope this was somewhat insightful, that now it's this easy to consume Hubway APIs in ODC apps. Now I'll hand it over back to João, so you can show us around more advanced scenarios with Hubway and OData, I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rita. That was a great demo. I'd like to open a quick parenthesis here and read the results of the first polls. It's interesting to see that a lot of us are considering the adoption of ODC. So around 20% was distributed between yes or no, and the question was, are you working with ODC? But then half of the audience said, no, but I'm planning to, which is great. I mean, it's great indication that the product has reached a level of maturity that takes planning, of course, to migrate to. But we've seen that the market has been adopting more often. And that also reflects our experience. Most of our clients are considering migrating, and they're after advisory. So on the other question, what is your time frame for migration? 20% was between 0 to 6 months, and 20 to 30, I think 30% was between 1 to 3 years. But then again, half of the audience are not sure, so they answered as I didn't think about it. So I think it's interesting to see that there's a lot of opportunity to address questions and to discuss, to help other companies to go around their journey of migration, which leads me to a few questions. I think there was a first question added. What if I have traditional web apps? So look, that's an interesting question. That's a question that we always get asked, because even though reactive has been adopted a few years ago, even I think before ODC was even designed, there's a lot of businesses still running on traditional web applications. And that's one big reason why we believe that coexistence is so important. There is no straightaway migration path from O11 traditional web apps into ODC apps. A mandatory step is to convert traditional web apps into reactive first, and then port the reactive app into ODC. We know this is time consuming, and that's where the whole concept around coexistence comes from. We want to be able to expose data from O11, irrespective of the tech stack. So if even traditional web applications can have their data available through the OData APIs via Hubway. So that's one question. I see another question coming up, but let's address them later. I would like to carry on the demo after Rita's demonstration and dive a bit deeper into Hubway's functionalities. So I hope you guys can see my screen at the moment. All right, good. So look, as Simona shared in the beginning, this is the builder. It's a web application that will normally run in a non-production environment, and it's going to allow the team to create, author the APIs, edit the metadata, put all the security configuration in place, and then with one click, push all the APIs into production, where the APIs will be offered it will be exposed in the runtime solution. So talking a bit about the build and what you can do with the basic functionality. So let me just open the project that Rita used in the ODC implementation and walk you through some of the basic functionalities. In the overview tab, when I open an API, you can see that there's some version control functionalities. In this case, I'm seeing the draft of version 3. and I can easily navigate to previous versions of the API. So if there was a different security configuration or entity set exposed, they're all versioned, and in this case, it's a published version, so I cannot change it anymore. Whenever you publish a version, you're taking a snapshot of it. That helps with coexistence, with versioning of applications, and it's a necessary functionality when it comes to interoperability. Then delving a bit deeper into the overview with the basic functionalities, you can get straight access to the test and production links. In case the API has been deployed to production, you're going to see the production link here. You can easily copy the link. Audit levels, the runtime, the requests to the runtime APIs can be audited. You might also want to untick this so that you avoid auditing and you don't accumulate data, or you avoid any impact in user experience. But the basic level is available to have all the information logged. I'm going to show you how you can get access to this audit information. Then jumping through to the entities tab, that's where you can select the tables in the OutSystems database that will be made available through the OData APIs. In this project, we have 3 entities exposed already. I can quickly see a visual diagram of these entities, see if they relate to each other and how they do so. I can, of course, download the diagram and have it shared, so it also helps as a documentation. I can also see the entities exposed at the attribute level, and I can tweak them. So if I don't want attributes available in the output of the API, I can just untick those attributes here. We can also have an advanced access to custom entities, which is part of what Rita demonstrated. I'm going to get back to this in a few minutes. And then just moving on, from a security perspective, Hubway is secure by design, so no APIs in Hubway are made available without an authentication mechanism. Out of the box, basic credentials is the default authentication mechanism adopted, so it uses integrated with the OutSystems security mechanism. So you can leverage end user accounts sitting in the OutSystems environment, and the authentication mechanism is just the same. It leverages the OutSystems out-of-the-box mechanism. But there's also authentication strategies that can be adopted as well. So out of the box, we do support the OAuth 2.0. That can be connected to external identity providers as well. You can leverage either the OutSystems OAuth as a OAuth server, or you can adopt Microsoft Entra ID, Google, Okta, IPO. All the non-identity providers can be supported as we adopted OAuth 2.0 as per specification. But you can also extend the authentication model. I'm going to show how you can go about configuring a customized authentication method. And then from an authorization perspective, by default, all the APIs in Hubway are read-only, so you can only get records from the APIs. You can restrict access to the API using the built-in user groups in OutSystems. So these groups are defined in OutSystems. But you can also make your API available to read and write operations. So that means that you can create, update, and delete records straight in the tables. That's useful for migration or simple CRUD operations where you want to create and update records. And you can also restrict user groups. So if you're using basic credentials or up to any sort of authentication method, you can specify what user accounts can read or create or update records. Then a few more additional functionalities. There's a full history of all the changes made in the project. You can see who and when created the project, added entity, added or removed attributes, changed the security model, either authentication or authorization. It is all logged. You can see who did it, when it happened. You can quickly share the runtime endpoint URL as well. So as an admin for your project, you can get the recipient, so people who are supposed to receive your endpoints, and send a friendly email to them. And some more advanced capabilities that can be explored later. But as an example, we support multi-tenancy. So if you have multi-tenanted applications built in our systems, it can be supported out of the box, or you can just untick that filter. Meaning that APIs can either expose all the data across tenants, or it can be automatically filtered according to the user context. And you can also, for performance and experience perspective, by default, we limit or we cap the amount of records returned in the APIs, but you can either override it or replace the top restriction, the threshold yourself. These are some of the advanced capabilities. This is how you can get access to the audit in the runtime API. So what you're seeing here is really the list of all the requests made in the APIs. If I click one, you can see some more details, as in the full URL of the request, the method used, response time, response size, number of records retrieved, and the source IP address. These are all information that are available in the solution. Some more advanced functionalities before we delve into a more technical demonstration. We can also integrate with the lifetime team security mechanism, meaning if you want your users to restrict their access to the entities, to the tables available in your OutSystems portfolio, restricted by the lifetime teams, if you just tick this box, it means they're only authorized to see the entities that they have permission to. So according to your security provisioning process, you can have Hubway also integrated with that. And then this is how you could go about adding custom authentication. This is supported by a plugin mechanism, where you will have access to a module that is automatically incorporated into Hubway, but this module can be edited. So in your own environment, you can have a developer coding an authentication mechanism that can, for example, leverage any sort of pre-existing token mechanism or legacy reliant security process. In this case, OAuth 2.0 is a custom authentication implemented through a plugin, through a Hubway plugin, but this is supported out of the box. So when we have Hubway Connected installed in an environment, OAuth is made available by default. Apart from this, you can add any sort of custom authentication, and they're made available here. All right, so let me jump to technical part of the demonstration. Simona showed a very basic scenario on how to consume the OData APIs. I would like to go one step down. Just a disclaimer is this part of the demo will get a bit techy. So for the audience, in case the audience is a bit diverse in terms of managers or people in leadership roles that might not have that level of depthness, we're going to get back to the presentation with Simona with a few more strategic benefits. But just allow me to open this parenthesis for a few minutes. What I'm using for this demonstration is a tool called Postman. It's one of the leaders in the market in terms of API testing. You are going to see that I'm actually using some predefined test scenarios here. This is where I put the URL. So this URL you're seeing is a Hubway Connect URL. And in this big content here, you see the response, so the result of the API. What I'm demonstrating is that for the root URL of any Hubway API, the response you get back is an automatic documentation. That's part of the OData protocol. And we list the entities available in the API. To remember, we had three entities: product category, and product details. These are listed as three different entities. Another interesting mechanism also supported by OData out of the box and implemented by Hubway is the technical documentation of the API. This is comparable to, in other technologies, to the documentation of the API, as in for SOAP APIs, you would have a WSDL documentation. For REST APIs, you could probably have an Open API or Swagger documentation. In terms of OData APIs, even though data is built on top of REST of a RESTful architecture, it has its own documentation standard, which is a standard called EDMX. And the XML you're seeing on my screen at the moment is basically the list of entities, and further down, the list of attributes for each entity. It goes all the way to the level of navigation property, which means the relationships between the entities. So Hubway is able to introspect all the metadata in the OutSystems database structure and convert it into this documentation. This documentation is normally leveraged by all those solutions that support OData. So consider Microsoft Dataverse, Data Factory, Azure Data Factory, all the OData compatible solutions, and this list just gets bigger and bigger, are able to interpret the EDMX format and generate stubs to consume the APIs. Rita is going to demonstrate a more advanced scenario in a second on how to do it through ODC. Now, a few examples of how to interact with data. In this first example here, this is just a simple list. What I'm doing is I'm appending the name of the table or the entity to the URL, and then I have a JSON back with the list of records. This is quite simple, straightforward scenario. Then another scenario is we can use the OData query options. They all start with this $. OData supports a lot of different operators out of the box. Two of them are top and skip, which allow you to implement pagination. So in this case, I'm getting the top 3 records and skipping the first 3. I'm pretty much on the page 2 of a paged result set. This is quite important for incremental data syncing, or when you want to have users on the consuming side navigating through a big payloads with tables with large volumes of data. Another example is filtering. Through OData, you can pretty much do anything you can do with a ANSI SQL statement. The secret is just applying the query options on the URL. And as you can see, it's a pretty simple REST approach. I'm just doing a get to a URL and writing my filter logic on the URL. So I'm using the query option filter and filtering the ID equals to 3. That gives me back a list with 1 record with the record I'm interested in. Another example is associations. Doing an analogy to traditional SQL coding, what I'm doing is I'm joining 2 tables here using the query option expand. So I'm listing the product records joined with their respective product category. And the result is a hierarchical JSON with the list of products and their respective category. We can also combine different query options. So in this case, I'm combining expand with the same example I just did, but also filtering product IDs equals to 3. And I have a record with the hierarchy structure. These associations can be nested, and you can have as many relationships or levels as necessary. Last but not least, an example of how to filter date ranges. This is quite useful in data synchronization mechanism, which is one of the key use cases we use Hubway for. When you want to stage data from OutSystems into reporting or data analytics structures. but it's also useful for interoperability scenarios. So the query options here are, in this case, I'm using filter, and I'm combining two different fields, created on and sorry, same field, but with two different operators. Created on greater than a specific date or lesser than a specific date. That's how you can go about filtering records within a specific date range. So I hope with these simple examples, you're able to have a grasp of what can be done with OData, and also what Hubway supports out of the box in terms of providing this no-code capability to build APIs. Now, I am gonna go into another level of the demonstration and show how we could adopt an ODC app to incorporate a change in the API. So let's assume the API that Rita consumed in the ODC app is already built. Now, let's assume that I want to add a new field to a pre-existing API. In this case, I'm going to add the discount field to the API. As you can see, discount isn't ticked, meaning it's not part of the output payload. I'm just going to tick it on, save the custom entity, and I'm going to hand it over to Rita to show another video of how she customized the ODC app to incorporate the new field. Go for it, Rita.
All right, let me just share my screen very quickly. Hopefully you can see it right now. So first of all, as Joan just created version 3 of the ODC project, we'll change the setting to 3 in the environment. To do that, we just have to go to the apps configuration, open the setting, set it to 3, and save it. Now, what we need to do in the ODC Studio is to ensure the API receives the discount attribute. For that, what we'll do is in the structure that's coming out of the API, we have to add the discount attribute. And we know it's decimal, so we'll set it as a decimal as well. And we'll have to do the same thing in another structure, which is this one, that actually just mimics the product detail, and this one is the one used in the screen so we can render the image. So I'll just add the discount as a decimal as well there. And we'll have to make sure it's correctly populated. So in the end of the data action as the output, just make sure the discount is equal to the discount. And now all that's left is to actually display it in the screen so we can actually see it working. So this is the original price. So we'll add a little style called line through to the original price. So it's like has a strike through the original price. And we'll want to calculate the discounted price in the other expression. So we know the decimal is a number between 0 and 1. So we'll just do the necessary calculations for it. We'll get the discount here. And that should do it. So we'll publish the app now. And bear with me for a second. Sometimes this can take for a while. But so the 4 steps we just did was add the discount attributes in the API structure, add it in the structure used in the screen, make sure it's correctly populated in the data action, and just make use of it in the screen so we can actually see it working. So we'll switch back to the app now. We'll refresh the screen. It's refreshing. So we'll close this pop-up. And there you can see it. The discounted price is actually now displayed all through the Hubway project. So in a matter of like 5 minutes, give or take, we just created a new version, published it, changed what we needed, consumed it in the ODC, and it's now available in the app. Just one last thing in regards to one of the questions that was asked, we will publish this ODC app in the Forge component soon enough for you to try it yourselves. And that's all we had for the demos today, I think. Back to you, Simona.
Thank you so much, Rita. This was really, really interesting. So going back to our presentation, we don't have that many slides left, so bear with us. Okay. So I'm sure you can see my screen now. So just to recap, Hubway Connect can help with the transition. One of the first reason is, of course, because it can quickly build APIs without any code. And because of that, the development resources can be, focused on innovation and on building ODC solutions rather than on custom API development. And this will mean a reduced cost of API development. And also that means that we can simplify the data migration between ODC and O11 with Hubway Connect. We believe that Hubway Connect can actually help accelerate the adoption of ODC, and it can make it very easy to have a smooth transition to ODC and to make the adoption easier and quicker. So with that being said, I think we can look at what questions we have. Sorry. So in regards to the QR code, I know there was a question about the sample app. If you want the sample app, you can just scan the QR code and we can make it available for you. And in regards to the questions and answers, let me see what we have here. Okay, so what if we have traditional web apps? I think this has been answered by João a bit earlier. Then this is the same question. Is Hubway Connect?
Simona,
yeah, go ahead.
Just real
Go
quick,
ahead.
if I may.
Yeah.
Just answering this one again, in case who asked the question again didn't see the first time answer. Yes, absolutely. Traditional web apps are also supported by Hubway. You can expose them transparently. So from an OData API exposure perspective, there's no difference between traditional web apps and reactive, 11.
Okay. Thank you, João. If I look on the next question, is Hubway Connect read-only? I think you already touched on that. Hubway Connect is read and write only, and you can customize the permissions in the app to leverage, user groups and to restrict the access on read and write. Okay, and then we have a question about performance. So in regards to the performance aspect, let me start by saying that, João mentioned that Hubway uses OData, which is an open protocol, and most of the tools and many of the ETL tools work really well with OData. And I'm mentioning this because one of the key recommendations in terms of performance is to implement a really robust sync strategy. And this is available already and out of the box with OData because there are a lot of out-of-the-box query options provided. So there's also filtering, there's also pagination. So this ensures that you can do an incremental load approach. So this is a best practice. Now, the second thing I want to share is that we already have an API performance test publicly available, and I'm gonna share this in the chat. So we have this available on our website, but to mention maybe other mechanism that we put in place, because performance and security are the top of our priorities. So we did implement data retrieval optimization, which means the SQL queries are assembled and run using highly efficient algorithms. We implemented load testing. So we load tested the product to its limit with over 1 million record scenarios. and our tests indicate that the Hubway Data API performs very good. And we also have API throttling, so that means out of the box, we limit the data retrieval at max 1,000 records. This is configurable. Joao already showed you that. So a sysadmin can actually change this parameter. Okay, let's see if we have.
There's one more question. I was reading it offline, Simona. I'm happy to take that one on.
Yes, please
The
do.
question was, can Hubway build the APIs by pointing to any database tables, as in external databases? Yes, it does support external databases, so it can connect to SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, and Postgre databases. It's a matter of creating an extension and connecting using OutSystems out-of-the-box functionalities, and all the your external database catalogs will be available in Hubway transparently. So either internal OutSystems or external databases can be made available through Hubway. Absolutely. Thanks for the question.
Okay. We are open for another question if there is. If not, I want to be conscious of time. We are 1 minute over, but listen, everyone, thank you very much for joining. I hope this has been informative for you. And yeah, please sign up, try the product. You can see here the trial link. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a really great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Cool. I think it's only us now, right? I'm gonna stop recording.